Welcome back, everyone. It is Renfail, your favorite Lord of the Rings online host, and today we're going to be diving into an updated crafting guide, which I haven't done in a while, but we're doing a new one here for 2023. We're going to be following this up with a cooking and farming guide as well, so make sure to stick around for those videos. But in the meantime, crafting in Lord of the Rings Online. If you've never done it or you haven't done it in a long time, this is going to be the video you want to watch. Hopefully it's going to be super short and succinct and everything you need, but you never know. I might ramble. I tend to ramble. Welcome. This is the Bree Crafting Hall. Whether you start in Archit or Mickle Delving or Arid Luin, it doesn't matter. Eventually, the introduction quests are going to lead you to a crafting hall of some type where you're going to be faced with these two daunting fellows. They're going to vary in appearance depending on where you start off at, but basically you've got your Master of Apprentices and your Master of Crafting Guilds. Now, you don't have to worry about the Master of Crafting Guilds at the moment. We want to focus instead on the Master of Apprentices, who's this generally jovial fellow over here to the right. And if you right-click on him, he's going to open up a window that says, "Are you looking to learn a vocation?" And a vocation here is essentially, it's an archetype. For those of you who have never played this before, you might know it by other terminology. But essentially, it is a grouping of harvesting and crafting abilities under a single title. And you can only have one of these, so you need to pick carefully based on what you think you're going to want your character to do. In this case, my character is an explorer, which means I am primarily a tailor who also has forestry, and then as a backup, I do prospecting. Now, I don't need prospecting for the act of tailoring, nor do I need forestry per se. But the prospecting helps because when you're out in the wild, I can harvest any mining nodes that I come across, and I can then use those to sell on the broker to generate cash. And forestry is a combination of harvesting wood, which I don't need because I'm not doing woodworking, but also the refinement of leather, which does help me towards my tailoring, which is the primary crafting class that I have within the Explorer vocation. There are various vocations to choose from. Just pick the one that's going to be right for you. Think about the primary crafting that you want to do, and then any sort of harvesting that you might want to go along with it. And you can talk to this fellow, and he will give you a breakdown on all of these different vocations to help you understand which is going to be the best choice for you. Now, the crafting guilds, I should probably just do a separate video on the crafting guilds entirely. They really only apply to the VIPs these days in 2023. Let's see if he actually has... Yeah, even if you talk to him, they don't give you any details at the moment. But essentially, the crafting guilds are specialized towards whatever is your primary vocation. So if you were a tailor or a jeweler, there's a jeweler guild, a tailor guild, a woodworker guild, and so on and so forth. And they allow you to learn like bulk recipes and also the legendary recipes if you have to be doing something like, say, a weaponsmith or a woodworker. You'll be able to get legendary weapon recipes to craft. And of course, the best end-game armor and so on and so forth can be made through the crafting guilds, but it's a slightly different process, which I don't want to confuse us with today, even though I started to talk about it, which I shouldn't have done. Anyway, haha. Here is the workbench for the tailor. Now, there's two things you have to think about for the act of tailoring. One is, of course, the resources that you go out and gather, which you are then required to convert into something that can then be used to make an item. So in this case, let's just look at the Eastminute, which are the tier that I'm currently working through right now. And in this case, I have brushed Rittermark leather. And if I wanted to refine one of these down, I would just click the make button and it's going to make that. But also of importance here is the fact that we have this yellow bar up here, which says that I have 1,172 out of 1,520 experience points towards mastery. And if you look up here in the top right, you'll see that I get 6 points of Eastminute Craft XP earned every time I do this recipe. So the act of refining is actually what levels you up through the various tiers of harvesting and refinement. Now, they start off with apprentice, and then you go to journeyman, expert, artisan, master supreme, Westfold, Easton, and then Weston, and beyond. But in order to unlock the next tier, I have to first get through the basic proficiency, and then if I want to get the crit recipes, I have to be able to max out the actual tier itself. So you'll notice two differences here on the both of just the way they visually look, but also the amount of points. So the Westminute, excuse me, it says I'm 0 of 840, so I've not done anything here at all. So I would need to go find pieces of walnut bark, or I would need to find Eorlinless leather, and I would need to craft enough of those, to refine enough of those to get to 840 points, at which point it's going to then go from proficient towards mastery, which is what I'm currently working on with the Eastonite. I'm working towards my mastery. So I'm still a few hundred points shy. And to do that, I would just need to make a lots more leather, or I would need to extract pieces of oak bark, or I would need to refine thin oak boards down. And you would do that at a workbench like we're doing right now. Now there's different types of oak, or different types of wood, different types of leather that you can refine, and these are going to require different things like lumps of Rittermark wax. That's going to be required to make this, and it's also going to take 2 glazed Rittermark leathers. So that requires this amount of brushed Rittermark leathers along with lumps of wax. So, it's a process of saying I need to make a bunch of brushed Rittermark leather to make a bunch of glazed Rittermark leather to then make a bunch of finished Rittermark leather. And this is a high quality piece of finished Rittermark leather used by experienced Eastonite tailors. So it's just the various tiers of components that you can make, and different recipes require different tiers. So if we come over here into the medium armor section as an example, actually maybe we Tailors Guild, because I am a member of the Tailors Guild. Captain Armaments, where is, I might not have any recipes right now. Oh, here it is. I have the Eastonite standards, which I can use brushed Rittermark leathers to make that. So I would take the brushed Rittermark leathers I have, I would click the make, and then I would make that item using the brushed Rittermark leathers that I had just created earlier. Now there's different types of things you can make, and if you don't have the leathers, you can also use the universal ingredient packs if you have any on those, which is just a way to not use any resources. But those are then locked to your character, whereas if you make them with resources, you can sell them on the broker or trade them with other players and so on and so forth. But let's go back to a tier that I've actually worked through before, and let's look at, say, the heavy cloth armor that I could make for level 10, way back in the day when I was a baby apprentice. So to make heavy cloth gloves, I would need 4 brushed light leather and 1 bolt of rough cloth, and that would give me heavy cloth gloves. But notice down here there's a purple version which is called the crit version, and that has better stats than the heavy glove. So these, 196 armor, this is 228, and the stats are much better than they would be on the normal item. But in order to make one of these crit items, I need a crit component, in this case, a common flax fiber. And if I were to use that common flax fiber with whatever tools I have, I would increase my chance to, be 70% to crit on that. And then I would be able to go from there and create, hopefully, a crit version. I might need to do more than one. You never know. Now, as you go up in the tiers, you get into, say, journeyman, so on and so forth, you'll be able to start making different types of light armor for the different tiers. And then eventually, you're going to get to this right here, which is the next thing I wanted to show you. When you get into the higher tiers, level 15 has 2 different versions. So here on medium armor, tough leather armor, in the top right here, it says select output. So you're going to notice the one that says tough leather, and it has a series of stats associated with it when you hover over it. 727 armor, 18 agility, 12 vitality, and that's the tough. But then I could choose to go over here to the tough dwarf leather make. And in some cases, it's going to change the stats, but it's also, this is going to be important, change the visual. So this would be the look at the version that I would make normally, the tough leather armor. And if I went over to tough dwarf make leather and click that, you'll notice that that graphic changes because the cosmetic is different. And as you get higher up in levels, you'll end up getting into things where you have 3 different outputs. So in this case, we would have the Hunter's version, the Dwarf Make version, and then the Elven Hunter's version. Each one of those items having a different visual component to it. And this one is 49 agility, 42 vitality, and then this one would be the same. Looks like they're the same. Physical. Yeah, it looks like the stats don't change on some of these, but some of them do. So, yes, you can make different tiers of items, but also different cosmetic versions the higher up in the tiers you get. Now, the cool thing about all of this is when you go through and work on crafting, for any given tier, you'll notice that you have lots of different things you can make, not just armor. You can make cloaks, you can make captain armaments, you can make burglar signals, you can make light armor, you can make medium armor, you can also make items for the Rangers of Esselden, which is really cool. It's a faction item, essentially, which allows you to earn faction with the Rangers. And then you can also do this Tapestry of Deeds, which is another faction item. And then you get into the Tailor's Guild stuff, which is what I was talking about earlier, which it's not too important other than these are faction items that you can create like once a day, once a week, once every 7 days, once every 3 days, so on and so forth. I think it's this one's once every 18 hours. This one's once every 30, 72, something like that. And this one's every 7 days. So it's like every day, every 3 days, every week you could make these, and these give you massive factions, and eventually you can get cool stuff that you could make at the Tailor's Guilds. So that is in essence a short and extremely compact version of crafting. All you need to know is that if you want to make something, you need to have a corresponding workbench, whether it's a workbench for you, a forge for a smith. There's a study for scholars back in here. There's a stove if you want to be a cook. Everybody uses a different type of workbench scenario. And then once you come on here and make something, you just click your recipes and go from there. Now, keep in mind, when you first start off, you probably don't have all of the recipes at your disposal. So you would go over here to the merchant and you would buy your recipes from him. You could also go into the LOTRO store, and with points you can buy all of the recipes for a given tier, which includes dropped recipes, which you have to get off the auction hall. So these are just some tips and tricks to some quick and easy crafting here in 2023. Hopefully I think taking up crafting is worthwhile, because you do earn experience. Down here in the bottom left, you'll notice I was earning experience points towards my level, my adventuring level. So it's another way to earn experience as you're leveling up your character. So when you're out and about, you're going to be coming across lots of nodes to harvest, and I think the Explorer in my mind is one of the easier ones to pick if you're a first-time player, because you can do the prospecting and foresting, which allows you to harvest the most amount of nodes. But you can also come over here, and I think there's another one in here. Let me look for it real quick. Yeah, the weaponsmith. No, it's not the weaponsmith. Hang on. I think it is this one. I think this is the only one that allows you to do all 3 of these. Yeah, the other ones just allow you one or the other. Like the armsman, you can prospect, but you can't get nodes, wood nodes. So the explorer allows you to get wood nodes. Because you're a forester, you can get wood. You'll harvest hides off of animals, and then you can prospect as well, plus make your own armor. So food for thought. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this guide, and if you did, do me a solid. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Don't forget to support if you can. It keeps me on the air full time. You can do super chats and stickers, live streams from premieres, super thanks on uploads, memberships here on YouTube, memberships on the Patreon page. Don't forget the Discord. Hopefully you're enjoying your time in Middle Earth, everyone. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, stay safe.